What's up, everybody? This is Ahmed with A. Roberson Photo, A. Roberson Media, back with part 2 of a 2-part Q&A of how I make my living as a freelancer and my recommended do's and don'ts. When it comes time to make that decision on whether you want to leave your job and give it a go at being a full-time freelancing self-employed person, people always talk about timing. I don't know if it's right. I don't know when the right time it is to jump. And you've heard certain celebrities and other people say, you just got to jump, you just got to do it. I don't necessarily agree with that advice unless you're prepared. The way I've heard it from some celebrities, they just say, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. In today's world, you can't just, I'm just going to quit my job no matter what and just go full time at this. It's already hard enough to get a 9-to-5 job as it is. And you think it's going to be that much easier to just quit that almost guaranteed 9-to-5 to go give it a shot at being a freelance artist? It is extremely difficult. It's always been difficult. Even before my time, it was hard to be an artist and make a living off of being an artist. I've mentioned earlier, people love media, thrive off of media, need media, visual stimulation. Everybody loves it, can't function without it, but nobody wants to pay for it because it's so readily available. And even though it's readily available and free, a lot of it is not free, but people are so used to getting it for free that nobody wants to pay for it. So in regards to taking that chance and jumping and putting all your effort into making a life as a freelancer, you can absolutely do that. You can absolutely do that. I'm living proof. Yeah, I had the security of my severance check, but aside from my severance check, I also had savings. While I was working my 9-to-5, I didn't function like a lot of people do. I didn't take all my money and go shopping all the time, spending and buying crazy stuff. I did that in my 20s. But all in my 30s, I was focused on my career, focused on my future. So I was already penny wise for the most part, but I started becoming extremely frugal because I had to calculate all my costs, plan my budget, plan what my rent would cost, with my electric bill, gas bill, car insurance, car payment, whatever the case may be. I had to take all that into consideration. So even though I had my 9-to-5 and I was still doing my freelancing on the side, I was budgeting as if only money that I had was from my freelancing money, and my 9-to-5 money, as much as I could, I would save and stack up as much as I possibly can. So when the day came when I was going to be inevitably let go from my job, I would have something to fall back on, and that cushion is what would allow me to function while trying to be a full-time freelance artist. So when you have that desire and you just want to quit your job, don't quit your job blindly. Don't just jump off the analogy, you jump and hopefully you have a parachute and you'll hit a couple of rocks on your way down and all that stuff, and but you'll bounce back. The parachute might catch wind and you'll float, you'll take off. That's true, but see, that parachute for me is not just a wish and a prayer. It's not just a chance. It's being prepared. It's being smart. Yeah, there might not be an exact date like January 31st, 2020, I'm gonna quit and everything's gonna be perfect. It doesn't work that way, not in my experiences, but you have to plan accordingly. So if possible, if you can, try to save at least 6 months to a year worth of rent, car payment, insurance, food, electric bill, cell phone bill, stuff like that. See if you can save as much money as possible, or try to, whatever from your 9-to-5 money that you earn, only spend what you can only spend what you need to spend in order to pay your bills at a bare minimum, and try to save the rest, just to see if you can make that adjustment. Because I've mentioned it's going to be some lean months where you're not making some money, you're not making a dime, and it's going to be hard. So you don't want to quit your guaranteed 9-to-5 money, jump into the freelance world, it not work out like you anticipated, and you don't have any money as a backup as a safety net to carry you while you're still looking for more jobs and building your portfolio and trying to land more clientele. So yes, you can absolutely do it. Again, I'm complete living proof, and trust me, please believe me when I tell you this is not easy. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to give you reality from my perspective. I'm not gonna sit here like some may get on YouTube or other media outlets and say, yeah, you could be a freelancer, everybody can do it. I absolutely believe you can. I'm not the only person that can do it. Trust me, I know I'm not the only person that does it, but I'm just gonna tell you from my experiences that it is difficult. But again, I would trade this difficulty of working for myself over an easy 9-to-5 any day. I have my freedom. I have my time. I wake up when I want. I go to bed when I want. If I don't feel like working on a day, I don't. I don't have to call in and tell my boss or supervisor that I'm not coming in, or can I have a day off please, or something like that. Matter of fact, I don't even like using the word boss. Even when people say you're a boss, you run your own, but I don't even like the word boss because I got my feelings about that word. It just doesn't sit right with me. But anyway, I earn my time. My time is worth more than money to me because I get my life back. I'm not restricted to the program. Be at work at 8 or 9, go to lunch at noon, be back at 1. You better be back at your desk and you don't clock out until 5 or 4 or 3 or whatever. I don't like living like that. I never did, even when I started working at 14, and I definitely don't like doing that now. So, but I digress. You can absolutely do it, and you can prepare for it. There's not an exact time, but you have to prepare for the worst. In every business venture that I've always tried, I always think about what can go wrong. Not that I'm a full-on pessimist that I don't think an idea will work, but the idea and what you think will come from the idea is the easy part. Of course you think if I'm gonna be a t-shirt designer, a graphic designer, yeah, everybody's gonna buy my t-shirt because my slogan is better than every other slogan in the world and I'm about to be rich. We all feel that way about our projects because it's our project. We're enthused about it. We want it to be successful, right? But do you think about what can go wrong? Nobody thinks about that. I'm not thinking about what can go wrong to talk myself out of the program or out of my idea. I'm thinking about what can go wrong to prepare myself. So if everything that I thought good doesn't happen, I know how to deal with it. So yeah, it's easy to think about what can happen good. If I quit my job, I'm gonna be a freelancer and I'm gonna make a living and I'm gonna live at home and do what I want, when I want, how I want. That's the easy part. But what about, oh man, I can't land a gig. Nobody likes my work. I need to reinvent myself and I don't have enough time to reinvent myself because rent's due next month. You know, things like that. So yeah, you can absolutely do it, but prepare yourself. Write a list, a vision board, you know, what you see as your goals and what you want to accomplish, what you want to achieve. Write a timeline for yourself. Write down when you want to leave your job, how much money you need to sustain you for 6 months or a year. Try to build clientele before you leave your job. I was working my 9-to-5 and I was freelancing on the same side, burning the candle from both ends. I was exhausted, extremely exhausted, but my desire to prepare myself and be able to work for myself was stronger than my exhaustion. I had to do it. There is no other alternative for me. As long as I can help it, I am not going back to working a 9-to-5. I don't care if I only make $5 grand, $10 grand a year and I have to eat top ramen for the rest of my life. Whatever the case may be, I refuse to go back to a 9-to-5. I don't like the restriction. I don't like the programming. I don't like the routine. So if I can help it, another question that I'm asked is photography your only source of income? And the answer, quite simply, is no. As I mentioned, I do not work a 9-to-5. I'm 100% a freelancer. But other things that I do Photoshop tutorials. I don't know if you've seen a couple of my tutorial promotional clips or not, but I do Photoshop tutorials and photography, teaching photography tutorials, and also business consulting. Yeah, I'm not a multi-billionaire business mogul, but I do know the ins and outs of business, and I share my business insight with those who want to learn certain steps to get them to the next step of being fully financially independent and self-employed. So yeah, photography is my main. Videography is becoming a new passion of mine to equal my photography, but I do tutorials and business consulting. The hours that I work are, I don't even take the time to measure what hours I work. I don't have a set shift, which I love, but my hours, another myth is that you can work a regular 9 to 5 type shift from home. That is absolutely untrue. I set my alarm clock to wake up at 8 in the morning. I often wake up at 7. I'm just programmed to do so. I wake up around 7 and I get my day started. The first hour of my day is checking my emails, going back and forth with emails, negotiating, trying to find new clients, discussing things with clients, and so on and so forth. After that, I have to take my dog for a walk. I have to feed my dog, and I have to make sure I feed myself. A lot of times you're sitting behind a computer, working your butt off, and you're not focused on the hours that go by, and the hours do go by kind of fast, actually. You don't realize how many hours have gone by that you have not eaten. Then you wake up and you're just super duper hungry. Gotta take time to eat and get back to work. So regular 9 to 5 hours, regular 9 to 5 lunch break type shift just doesn't happen. I mean, I've had certain days where as soon as I wake up, I check my first email in the morning, I've made my day's quota or day's pay within an hour. But there's also days where I sit at a computer and work a full day all the way until 3 in the morning, still trying to complete a project so I can get paid for the day. If not, try not to let it roll into the next day too far, because I don't want to get too far behind in another project, taking away the next opportunity. Although this may sound contrary to what I've been saying about putting in the long hours and spending so much time on a computer trying to find work and find jobs for yourself, you also have to make time for yourself, just for your mental stability, so you don't go crazy, so you don't go stir crazy sitting behind a computer all day long looking for work. You have to find time. It's hard for me to find time to socialize, but I do make sure that I get out of the house before I start suffering cabin fever. Even the little things, like I walk my dog every day and I socialize with people at the park. That gives me a break from the norm, from the routine of sitting behind the computer all day long. I'm somewhat of an introvert, but I'm a mixture, introvert, extrovert, more introvert than extrovert, but I still like to socialize with people, get out, see things. I love people watching. So you have to make time for yourself for your mental stability. So that's a definite do. Because if not, all you're gonna do is sit behind a computer, sit at home all day, and then you're gonna be one of those people who finally gets out and just doesn't know how to act. Oh, I'm out in the streets, let's go have a good time. Woohoo, let's go crazy. You don't wanna be that person. You wanna try to find that balance. At least I do, because being an introvert, I can sit here and shut myself in and work myself nuts. And then what's it all for? Just to work and pay bills and continue to work to pay bills? No, so you do want to try to find a way to make time for yourself. It's good for your health. It's good for your mental health. It's good just to socialize with people as a whole. It makes you feel good sometimes. Having a social life can be very difficult at times because you're not on a set schedule. So if you're constantly sitting at the computer looking for work, hoping for work, waiting for work, dating can be a little difficult. I mean, yeah, you do find time, and hopefully you can find someone who understands how demanding your schedule can be. But if not, for somebody who works a traditional, typical 9 to 5, dating someone that doesn't understand the dynamics of freelancing, being self-employed, and having to constantly look for money, having to constantly advertise, can be a bit difficult. One example that I like to give people, well, I won't say a company's name, but just think of a famous burger restaurant or fast food chain that you know of. Now, if I hadn't mentioned it, chances are you may not have been thinking about any particular fast food or any fast food chain. But most of these staples of fast food in the fast food industry have been around since before I was born. And you see those commercials all the time. Well, those are established multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar businesses. And if those businesses have to advertise continually to get you to think about or remember them, what does somebody like myself have to do? You know what I mean? You got to think about it like that. I'm small time. I'm easily forgotten. So I have to constantly advertise, look for work, and remind people that I'm here. But you want to be careful. You don't want to overdo it, because you can advertise yourself out of business just the same as you can advertise yourself in business. And what I mean by that is you don't want to flood. Just say you use social media for your advertising purposes. You don't want to flood social media with new pictures and ads and promotions and sales all the time, multiple times a day. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get people, you're going to overwhelm people, you're going to bore people, you're going to jade people to where when they see your ad, they're not going to pay attention to it. And you don't want that. You want to find a strategic time when you can do it to where you haven't done it so much to where people are looking for you, and they want to see what your next project is, what next special you're offering. But if you do it all the time, nobody's going to they're not going to pay attention to your ad. They're just going to blow right by it. Just like, for example, if you're on Facebook and you see something that comes up in your timeline over and over and over again, you don't look at it, you ignore it, you scroll past it. Well, same thing that can happen to you if you over advertise and over market yourself. So you have to find that sweet spot. You have to know when to do it, how to do it. And that's why my strategy is not 100% perfect by no means, but these are some of the things I talk about when I'm doing business consulting and business strategizing and marketing with some of my clients. Another topic of discussion, or another myth, is that you can't make a good living or make great money as a freelancer. And my honest answer to that is you don't know. It's hit or miss. You may produce fantastic work, excellent work, but art as a whole is subjective. You know, what you might think is your greatest project or greatest work done, somebody else might not agree. I've marketed some of what I thought was the best photo or best photo editing retouching that I've ever done in my life. And the consensus response was, it's cool. And then I've put out work that I wasn't necessarily fully 100% confident with, and my timeline blew up with positive responses like, this is amazing, this is awesome, this is great, this is wonderful. So it's 100% hit or miss. There are times when I absolutely struggle beyond sensibility with being a freelancer. There are times where, to be completely 100% honest, I've gone a full month without making a dime as a freelancer. And that was extremely difficult. But thank God, or anyone you believe in, that I had a savings. Because that savings is a safety net. It has saved me on a couple of occasions. I haven't gone multiple months without making money or done that quite often, but I did have a month where I didn't make a dime, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me, was it something I was doing? Does nobody like my work? Was my work not as good as I thought? I didn't know. But then the recovery, the bounce back, the month after that, unbelievable, immeasurable. It was more work than I could handle, but of course I'm not going to turn it down because I wanted to build another nest egg, another safety net, in case I did have another lean month where I didn't make any money. Thankfully, I haven't had those months, and knock on wood, hopefully I'll never have them again. But I've had those hard times, and it is extremely, extremely difficult freelancing. But on the flip side, because you're a freelancer, because your rates are arbitrary, you make your rates based on your skill set, based on your experience, based on your capabilities. I could have a month where I don't make a dime, or I could have a month or one project where I can make a year's pay off of one job. Hasn't happened yet, but I've had great paydays that I've done certain jobs that it paid me for a month, to where if I didn't have to, or if I didn't want to, rather, if I didn't want to work, I didn't have to. Of course, I'm not that foolish, because again, those lean months where you don't make a dime can come out of nowhere. You just don't know. It's completely unpredictable. It's not programmed. It's not set like a 9 to 5. Again, like I mentioned, as we've all done in our 9 to 5s, there are times where you don't work a full shift. You don't work a whole day. And if you're hourly or salaried, you still get paid for the whole day, no matter what. Freelancing, not the same. If I don't work, I don't get paid. So if I have a day where I land a project that pays me for the whole month, it'll be foolish of me to just sit back and relax for that whole month knowing that I have that set of bills covered. No, I have to keep working just as hard, if not harder, to build up that cushion, that nest egg, so that if I have another lean month, I don't have to suffer. I don't have to worry. I don't have to panic, and I don't have to dig into my savings to survive. My savings are there for full-blown emergency, not, oh, I didn't feel like working this month, so let me dip into it. I didn't feel like working last month, let me dip into it. Absolutely not. So it is a myth that you can't make a great living, because you can, but the honest truth about it is, it's hit or miss. You just don't know. And that's the scary part about it. You just don't know. So you have to keep pushing all day, every day. For the most part, all of my photography and the videography that I'm learning is all self-taught, or trial and error, or YouTube tutorials. At one point I considered getting certifications, getting certified, being a certified professional photographer, or taking Photoshop classes to get a certification. And in my experience, it may be different for you, but in my experience, it meant nothing. What matters is experience, your portfolio, being able to put together a good portfolio and being able to replicate that work time and time again. Your portfolio is what sells you. So when a client goes through your website, looks at your photo galleries or your video clips, your footage, and they see something that they want you to do for them, you need to be sure that you're able to do that. A certificate could show that you've gone through the courses necessary to produce such photography or video clips, but experience matters more than anything. Experience is what got me to where I am now. My portfolio speaks for itself. Everything that I put in my portfolio, I've done. I don't share other people's work. I mean, I might reference another photographer or look at their work, or even I might give it thumbs up or share it on Facebook, but I don't promote it, or I don't share it on my website as my own. I've come across a couple of photographers who've done that, and I'm not a fan of that practice, especially if you're advertising somebody's work that's better than yours. You get a client and you can't reproduce the work that's just as good as yours. So, but I digress. Certifications, they did nothing for me. I mean, it could be worth your investment, but I see no benefit. A don't recommendation would be, don't be afraid to take risks. I've mentioned earlier, art is subjective. So we don't know who likes what. You know, I've seen, like, I've done just Google searches on the most expensive portrait or the most someone ever paid for a photo. And some people have paid $13 million, $8 million, $5 million, $6 million for a plain landscape. I'm talking grass, ocean, no beautiful clouds. The picture was drab, it was dry, barely any color saturation or anything, and someone paid millions of dollars for it. Why? Because they saw something they liked, they felt the need to purchase it, and that was that. And that's not even necessarily a risk, but as far as your creativity goes, don't be afraid to be different. I mean, just think of how boring our world would be if everybody did everything the same. That would be terrible. So you have to believe in your craft, believe in your creativity, and step out and separate yourself from the crowd. Of course, you could separate yourself good. You could separate yourself good, or you could separate yourself bad. You know, you could go too far into that creativity and just ruin everything that you've built, or you can take a leap, a fave jump out there, put your craft out there full belief, and just hit. Who knows? You know, like I've said earlier, I've put photos out that I didn't even really necessarily like that much, but I spent so much time on it, I figured, you know what, let me just put it out there. Put the photo out there, got so much positive feedback, and I'm sitting there scratching my head like, you gotta be kidding me. I can't believe they like this photo that much. I don't see it. And it was my own work. But then there have been photos that I've worked on and thought, this is the sweet spot. This is the one right here that's gonna set me apart from everybody. And people were like, yeah, it's cool, but whatever, I've seen better. And I'm like, this is my best work. Or so I thought. So work is subjective. Art is subjective, and don't be afraid to take risks to separate yourself from those who might be in your close competitive market. One of the do's that's good for business being as a freelancer is having backup gear, backup equipment, depending on what your field is. For me, I started off as a photographer. I have multiple cameras, multiple lenses, multiple batteries, memory cards and such. Well, same thing, I'm new into video, but I have my main camera that I'm using now, and let me see, I'll place it here in that B footage. You'll see that's taken from my backup camera, my B-roll. And I have that just in case, for whatever reason, hopefully it doesn't, knock on wood, that my main camera fails. At least I have something as a backup just in case something goes wrong. So you want to get backups for your equipment, but you also want to be very careful not to get overly excited when you're new to your field and just purchase way more equipment than you could possibly ever need. I made that mistake when I got started. Everything that I thought I would need, I just bought myself into a little bit of a hole, and thankfully I was able to work myself out of that hole. But I have a lot of equipment even to this day. As I've gotten better, I've learned how to take good shots, good photos with less. Less is more in this instance. Not always is less going to be more. I still have my equipment. At one point, I thought I would sell it because I didn't need it. But then I thought to myself, what happens when you get that call for that big, huge production you've been waiting for, and now you don't have the equipment? So, excuse me, I've already made the investment. Might as well keep the equipment. It's not costing me any money. I'm not losing money by having it. And it's good to have just in case that day comes when I do get that call, I'm ready. So another one for the do recommendation would be to take this seriously. Yes, people equate photography, photo editors, videographers as a fun job in comparison to your typical 9-to-5. And in my experience, it has been fun. I love what I do. This is what I do. I mean, this is my life's calling. I feel at my most natural state when I do this. So yes, the job is fun, but it is a job. It is serious. So I've had people try to negotiate rates with me saying, oh man, it'll be fun. Or, hey, we're having a party. Hey, you should bring your camera, it'll be fun. But they don't want me to bring my camera because it's fun. They want me to bring my camera because they want to get good quality photos for free. So, you know, that goes from being invited to the party to being disrespectfully brought to the party only because of my camera. You want me to come to the party, or you want my camera to come? You know? So even though it is a fun job in comparison to your typical 9 to 5 in a lot of cases, in some cases, it's still a job. You know, I can't have a photo shoot for a client that's paying me and say, hey, your photos suck, but we had fun. Doesn't work. You know what I mean? You got to respect the job. You got to respect the craft, and you got to respect the time put into learning it, and you got to respect the time that the client should respect the time that we took to learn it, and the time that we put into perfecting the photo. Because as you know, when you take a picture or shoot a video, it's not just the video that you shot or the photo that you took. It's a lot of post-production, a lot of editing beyond the initial shot. So your job, even though you present your job as a fun job, a job that you love to do, you have to present the value in it. You can't just say, oh man, I love my job. My job is so much fun. Yeah, I'll do it every day for free if I could. That might be true. Hell, I would if I had enough money to back me to do so, but I don't. I have to make a living just like everybody else in the freelancing or 9 to 5 world. So as much as your job is fun, you can have fun, you can enjoy it. But like I said before, work doesn't have to equal misery. You know, I work every day. I set myself up to work 6 days a week, but I'm available 7 if necessary. So, you know, for some people, where's the fun in that? You know, for me, it is. Like I said, I enjoy what I do thoroughly. If I was rich, if I had the financial backing, I would do it for free. I just love what I do. But just because I love it, just because it's fun, doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. I mean, all it takes is one real bad review from somebody saying they didn't like my work or my work ethic, or I was playing on the job or something like that. Career over. Just that quickly. I could have 10 positive reviews and one real bad negative review. That bad negative review could negate all the positives that I earn. So I take it seriously. Earlier in my career as a photographer, fashion photographer, I had a friend of mine who was struggling with a little bit of finances, and I figured I'd help him out by letting him be an assistant on a photo shoot of mine. Honestly, I have the equipment necessary to not need an assistant. I have all the light stands, sandbags, whatever's necessary to make sure my equipment doesn't fall. It's in proximity so it doesn't get stolen, so on and so forth. And I tried to help the friend out, but because my friend thought my job was fun and didn't respect it as an actual job, as an actual career, he spent half the day flirting with the model that I was working with. You know, that is completely unprofessional. I was mortified. I was highly upset. But, you know, he just kept saying how cute she was and, you know, and making her feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, look, man, I don't care if she's in a bikini. I don't care if she's nude. I don't care if she's in a full dress, a gown, a sweatshirt, a turtleneck, whatever the case may be. I need you to respect her as a person. I mean, just in general, aside from the job, just respect her anyway. But to be disrespectful like that while on the job because you thought it was fun means you don't respect the job, you don't respect the craft. So again, you have to take your craft seriously. You have to make sure those around you take it seriously, because this is your well-being. This is how you make a living. So in conclusion, if I can summarize without looking at my notes too heavily, I started my photography career nearly 15 years ago, and it was purely by chance. Thanks to my boy Craig having me take a photo of him and his wife while we were out to dinner. Use his Canon point and shoot camera. Saw the results instantly on the LCD. Very next day, went and bought one myself. As far as working as a freelancer, I've been doing photography for 15 years, but I was doing it alongside working a 9 to 5. And over the last 2.5 years, I've been solely 100% a freelancer. I do a lot of marketing, a lot of work, a lot of negotiating, advertising, meeting people, new clients through Upwork. I've tried Fiverr, Freelancer, People for Hire. I don't necessarily like those sites as much as I do Upwork. I like Upwork's platform a lot better, and they seem to have a much better batch of clients, more high-end clients, more serious clients. A lot of my experiences, more than at least 98% have been positive experiences through Upwork. So, and that's not a plug for Upwork. I don't work for Upwork. I work through Upwork, but I'm not an Upwork employee. I'm self-employed, so I don't work for anyone. Also, a couple of don'ts, if I can remember. The biggest don't, I'll at least reiterate that, is do not work for exposure. It has never worked for me, and I don't have all the answers. If I did, I'm sure I'd be making a lot more money than I do, and I wouldn't be going through the ups and downs of being a freelancer. Don't work for exposure, because it's not going to get you anything. Only thing it's going to do is spread the word that you'll work for exposure. It's not going to become, hey, I found this guy or girl, they've done this great work for me. They did it for exposure, but for you, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Nobody's going to want to pay for that. They're going to keep reaching out to you for more exposure and more exposure until you've ended up doing a whole complete shoot for a whole team or a whole big production for free. And regardless of whatever any major company says they don't have the budget for, they absolutely do. But their ultimate goal is not to spend the whole budget on photography or videography or anything like that. I mean, most business entities want to save and earn money, not spend money. So you have to learn the art of negotiation with that. But also through Upwork, there's also Facebook, there's also Instagram, there's also modeling agencies. I actually sent my portfolio to modeling agencies. Whether they hire me or not, at least they know that I exist. Online magazines, just get your work out there. You saw in my Google search, you type in my name, no Ahmed Roberson photographer or Ahmed Roberson anything else, just my name specifically, and look at all those verified, all the green check marks, all those verified sites that my work is being seen on. So if somebody does a random search for a photographer, I might get lucky and come up in the shuffle. There's a lot of competition out there, but don't get discouraged, because art is subjective. What somebody might not like, somebody may love, and vice versa. So don't think your work has to look like a specific person's work. It's your work, so let it be your work. Your work will stand on its own. Somebody may like it, somebody may not. You never know. But don't get discouraged if they don't like it, because the next person will. It happens to all of us, happens to the best of us. I've lost jobs to people who I thought my work was much better than. Come to find out that they like their work better than mine. And yeah, it stings a little bit, but at the end of the day, I didn't get that client, but I got the next client. Just reference football, for example. I think one of the greatest quarterbacks, Tom Brady, I think he was picked like 12th in the draft or something like that. So, just because you don't get the prize, you're not first up to get the prize, doesn't mean you're not going to get the prize. So, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep fighting for it. Stay diligent. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But instead, the freeways are crowded with people, because it's much easier to work a 9-to-5 in comparison, or at least some 9-to-5s is much easier to work some 9-to-5s in comparison to being a freelancer, because working a 9-to-5, the money's almost guaranteed. It's pretty much there for you. Whether you work a full shift or not, you're still going to get paid for the day. Freelancing, not necessarily so much. Some days I get lucky. I wake up, check my emails, I get a job, make my days pay for the day. If I want it, I could spend the whole day relaxing, take a day off for myself for a change. But instead, I choose to keep working to build that surplus, because there's going to be some lean months where you're not making any money. Everything's going to be tight. So having that buffer, having that cushion, that safety net will keep you afloat while you're not earning steady pay. It's not earning steady income. Let me see. Briefly, just look at my notes really quick. I hate to do it this way, but I just want to be sure that I'm being thorough with everything that you've asked me, and I just want to be sure that I'm giving an answer in case I spoke too fast earlier in my I know what I wanted to say. Customer service is critically important to your success, to your survival. I make it a point every day when I get up to try to answer my emails. I get emails all through the night. Sometimes I'll get an email while I'm asleep. I wake up, check my phone, notifications everywhere. And of course, we all want to get on Facebook and Instagram and socialize however we see fit. But before I do that, first thing I do is I answer all my emails. Working online, majority of my work is online. Working online, a lot of my clients are on the other side of the world. So while we're awake, they're asleep, and vice versa. So we might be playing email tag back and forth, but at least I answer their email right away. So what if they're up working late and they get to see my email? Or if not, just like me, when they wake, they'll get an answer, they'll get a reply from me. And it's always good to respond to your emails right away, because that could be the job that you need to pay you for that day, pay you for that month, pay you for that year. That could be a career-changing job. But you always want to answer your emails and be professional with everything that you do, of course. I'm not telling you something that you don't already know, but I'm just sharing what I do. It is absolutely important. Customer service is critical to my survival, period. And again, that's not to say every customer is always right, and that you have to be a yes man or a yes woman and agree to everything that your customer says. But you at least have to respond. You have to respond professionally. If your customer gets upset and wants to curse you out, cuss you out, whatever, don't do that back in return, because they're in your world, they're a random customer. And I'm not saying that to belittle my clients or belittle or disrespect my customers, but they're a random customer in a sea of many. And I'm saying that to say this: if your customer cuss you out and then you get online and rant and say, yeah, this customer cuss you out, nobody's necessarily going to care. However, if that same customer said, oh, I emailed Ahmed and I got a little out of line, but he cussed me out something awful, now everything that's attached good to my name, that is also attached to my name. So now when somebody reaches out to me, they're going to be a little bit apprehensive, because if they say the wrong thing, they think I'm going to cuss them out. So again, you don't have to be a doormat. You don't have to lay down and be a yes man or a yes woman, but you have to treat your customers respectfully. I mean, at the end of the day, they're coming to you for a service and they're spending money with you. So why would you be anything other than kind, respectful, and professional? And if they choose not to be professional with you, just gracefully bow out. Just step away and say, sorry, I don't think we can work together. I'm not comfortable working together in this situation. You can find your way out of that situation as opposed to being rude or upset about it. So just to wrap this up, because I don't want to keep going back and forth with my notes, but if I did forget anything, or if you want me to elaborate on something further, please feel free to leave a comment. If you have another question asked, I may do another Q&A in the future. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up. And again, this is Ahmed with A. Roberson Photo. Please check out my website when you get a chance. It's Ahmed with A. Roberson Photo, A. Roberson Media, and I'll be talking to you soon.